In sports, the scoreboard doesn't tell the full story, but Netflix does. Stories about dads who happen to be world-class quarterbacks and a battle for the heart, soul, and direction of the multi-billion-dollar business of F1. Whether you're a diehard fan or you're brand new, Netflix has the stories for every type of fan. You can watch these incredible sports stories like Quarterback, F1 Drive to Survive, Untold, and many more now on Netflix.
Welcome to the Scarlet Supporters Pembrokeshire podcast. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Westerer is Bestra with me, Lee G. Now at this point I usually introduce Big M, but unfortunately Martin is not well this week. He's having a bit of a rough time of it, so he'll be back next week, hopefully. And get well soon, Matt. We're thinking of you and hoping that that's not a new way of losing weight that you've got there. So so we're going to crack on. It'll be a bit of a shorter episode, which might be a good thing. But so we'll just crack on with all the usual stuff and see how we get on. So things that we want to cover this week. There's a little bit of local stuff. There's no Scarlet stuff to cover this week. There's no Scarlet's news. So it's all Pembrokeshire stuff. I want to talk a little bit about our plans for the future. So how you guys can get involved a little bit more. Then we'll talk about the Italy game and a little bit of a preview of the France game. And then what I'm going to do is I'll wait until the team against France has been announced, and then we'll do another little bit. We'll tag it on the end there, and then we'll post it out then. So hopefully you won't notice a difference, but chances are you will. So local stuff this week then. So only 2 games to report this week coming up. So Friday night in Narberth have got Glamorgan Wanderers, and Haverfordwest have got Lampeter. So those are the only 2 official league fixtures coming up for this week. And as always, we're going to predict a Narberth win, simply because they should win that one. That should be quite a comfortable win for them. And then Haverfordwest, that's a tough game for the Blues. Lampeter, top of the table, and all singing, all dancing. So, it's going to be a tough one. But who knows? Stranger things have happened. It's a Friday night fixture. It's a long old trip down. They might not have too many players available. Who knows what could happen? So there's a chance there for Haverfordwest to do something, but we'll see how that comes around. So in terms of results from last week, now this is where Martin is really, really good, because Martin has this all prepared, whereas I just do it as I'm talking, which is a bit poor, to be honest. But so nothing in the championship. When was the 11th? So Ystad Rhondda, I think we covered that one last week. Ystad Rhondda Narberth. Ystad Rhondda beat Narberth 29-20. So I think that was. We covered that one last week, but I'm not 100% certain. One West. Were there any results to cover in One West? Nope. The only game that was on there got postponed, and that was Llangennech and Gorseinon, so that got postponed. Two West. Let's have a little looky at Two West. Fishguard. That was it. Yeah. So last Friday night, wasn't it? Fishguard beating Mumbles 19-12, which was a bit of a result for Fishguard, because that could have gone either way. Mumbles are second in the table. Fishguard are mid-table. So to take Mumbles, it was at home, and I think, like we said at the time, Fishguard at home is a tough one. So I think that was actually on the morning And so it would have been quite blowy, and that would have accounted for some of it. But cracking win for Fishguard. So Mumbles are second in the league, so that's a good scalp for them to take. And then in Division 3, were there any results from last week? No. So that was basically what we had from in terms of results. There's not many games this week. What we have got now, I believe this is a little bit difficult to track, and I'm relying mainly on social media for this. And if someone can tell me how the Pembrokeshire Cup actually works, that would be great. Because what I can see so far is there's a semi-final of the Pembrokeshire Cup, which is Narberth Athletic against Neyland, okay, which all sounds lovely, jubbly, and fantastic. But then you go, first game of the season, Narberth Athletic played Pembroke Quins in the Cup, and Pembroke Quins beat Narberth Athletic. Then I can't see any other games involving Narberth or Pembroke Quins. I can see other games with other people. And then we have a second round. Narberth play Aberaeron, 16-all draw. And then we're into the semi-final, which confuses me. So semi-final Narberth against Neyland, and I cannot for the life of me work out how that happened. I'm going to say Neyland had a walkover against Aberystwyth in round 2. Who did they play in round 1? No, can't see a Neyland fixture in round 1. So Neyland didn't play anyone in round 1, had a walkover in round 2, and are in the semi-final. Narberth lost, Narberth lost, so I can only assume that everybody else pulled out, which, like I say, if anyone can explain that to me, please do, because it just makes no sense. And the same for the plate. So what I can see on social media is Tenby hosting Whitland on Friday in the semi-final. And again, just nothing in the plate. So I don't know how that works. So if somebody can give us an idea of how the Pembrokeshire Cup and how the Pembrokeshire Plate works this year, that will be really, really good, because for the life of me, can't work that one out. Okay, so but good luck to all teams, and if anyone's going to go and have a watch on Friday, then we would really, really like to hear from you. Which brings me neatly on to next season and some of the things that we want to kind of change next year. So these are just the ideas that me and Martin have been throwing around and bandying about, and kind of looking at what works and what doesn't. So we want to get more people involved in Pembrokeshire Rugby, and we want to kind of hear from people more. So what we are planning on doing is having a sister podcast, which will be Carmarthenshire, so Scarlet's Carmarthenshire. So we would basically record the Scarlet section, and then we would record a Pembrokeshire section or a Carmarthenshire section. At the minute, we cover Ceredigion as part of Pembrokeshire as well. But if somebody out there wants to kind of help with Ceredigion, then we'll split Ceredigion as well. And you've then got the choice. You can listen to, the Pembrokeshire, Carmarthenshire, Ceredigion one if you really want to get a good understanding of local rugby and things like that. So that's kind of how we want to do it. So there'd be separate Facebook page and separate podcast, but we'd still do the Scarlets bit. So the Scarlets or the national bit would be like our central bit, and then there'd be other bits on the side. So what we want to do for the local games is we want to get people much more involved. So supporters that are going to watch games, or whether you're part of a club or whatever, we just want to compile a list of people who can give us a bit of a rundown of the game, And it doesn't need to be every game. It can just be the games that you attend or just the ones that you think went really well. A little 2-minute rundown or 2-minute conversation after each game to let us know how things are going. Because realistically, there's no point going to a game, watching it for 10 minutes and then trying to work out how the rest of the game went, and then it's take a few photos so it looks like you've been around kind of 10 grounds and you've been at all games where actually you spent 5 minutes at each, and it's a little bit junk. So we want to hear from you, the fans that are watching the games, and we want to get you involved in the games for next year. So we'll start compiling a list. If you want to be involved in that, we'll put some stuff on social media, let us know, and we'll start getting that ready for next season. Might even have a crack at it later this season just to test it out, see how it goes. But it should be a good introduction to Pembrokeshire rugby, and people want to know what local teams are up to. People really want to know what local teams are up to, because that's just the nature of Pembrokeshire rugby. Okay. So we're also looking for people to cover the women's game for under 18s, under 17s, under 15s. So I've done a fair bit of under 18s this year, but I won't be doing that next year. So we're looking for somebody to come in and do that. And then there's, all the Scarlets East West fixtures. So, and then we got the county 15s. So, chances are you're only going to be involved in it for 12 months, but if you fancy coming on and just giving us a bit of a rundown of how each game's going, that would be really, really cool. Because again, people really want to know. Like you heard from Aled last week about some of the challenges and some of the high points of being involved in local junior rugby. And I've been there myself as a coach of the county. It's really, really difficult, but those boys work really, really hard. So the more publicity we can get them, the more people we can get to games, the more we can get people talking about those junior rugbies, the more of those players we will keep in the game. And even down to if you want to send us a report on your local youth game, or if you've got a tournament on the weekend and you're under 7s and under 8s, more than happy to receive them. So that's all the kind of stuff we want to do next year, but we're specifically looking for under 17s, under 16s East West, and under 15s, and then somebody to cover the under 18s and somebody to cover the women's game as well. So if you fancy it, guys, just let us know, or for something that you want to hear. If there's something you want us to cover, the fact that we're going to do Carmarthenshire came from a couple of listener requests that said, why don't you do this, guys? I'd really like to listen to what you do in Pembrokeshire only for Carmarthenshire. So, that's what we decided to do. So, if there's something you want us to do, let us know, and we'll more than happy try and work it out. Okay. So, this is where having Martin really helps, because he can just kind of rabbit on for a while and I can prepare the next bit. It really, really helps. So let's have a look at Wales-Italy and just talk through that Wales-Italy game. So I think first and foremost, a win is a win. I think that's what we've got to take out of that game. I thought from my point of view, there's very little else we can take out of that game, because we got through that game by hook or by crook. I don't think there was a chance we were going to lose that after we got our noses in front. I don't think we were going to lose it. I think there was a bit of an attitude around everyone. And you can see that with the likes of, Ken Owens leading from the front and, catching wingers, cover tackle on a winger. So the effort is there. It's whether or not we're trying to play the right game, and whether or not we're doing it with the right players. So, looking at the positives from the weekend, I think the line-out worked really well. I think I think there was only one line-out that we lost. But Beard had a cracking game in the line-out. Yes, there's issues around his performance in the loose. You know, and is he a big, massive ball carrier like he should be? You know, we're not really seeing him in the loose in the way we used to. Jake Ball, for example, you know, or Will Rowlands, you know, two big ball carriers. And I think that is what we're missing. We are missing someone who can give us, you know, 5-10 meters, take in 3 or 4 players and you know, do that grunt work. That donkey work is so vital, particularly for the way Wales want to play the game at the minute. It's really, really important that we have go forward up front. And the reality is, on Saturday, we didn't have a lot of go forward up front. We had a lot of okay stuff. We had a lot of one pass and contact and a slow ball and then a kick. And I think that was where we really let ourselves down. So, you know, a lot of people have been saying how amazing Rhys Webb was with his kicking, this, that, and the other. For me, that's the wrong type of game that Wales need to be playing. We've got some really quick, skillful backs, particularly in the back three. We've got a young centre partnership that are big and bulky and can move. And Owen Williams is a decent 10. He's not an amazing 10. I don't think we have an amazing 10 in Wales at the minute. I think we have people that are kind of looking like they could be with Costello and Walsh at the Ospreys, but you know, there isn't anybody particularly outstanding at the minute. So to kick the amount of ball that we kicked on Saturday, just kind of, you know, what's the point in having those backs out there? If you look at that, our tries in, you know, reality, I think when you look at Webb's kicking, there was one decent kick which was a 50-22, and that relieved a lot of pressure and put us in a good place. The rest of it was, you know, we had options to play that ball. We had options to run that ball outside him. You know, we saw what Liam Williams can do in the corner when he had one decent run with the ball. And yeah, it was a little bit of weak Italian defence, but at the same time, when you're running at them at that pace and putting them off, you know, off centre on a tackle, then yeah, you stand a better chance of going through them. So that's the sort of stuff that we should have been doing. And for me, the constant kicking was just kind of, we're wasting the people that we've got on the pitch. And that's a disappointing bit for me. My favourite stat from the weekend was Italy's kick to pass ratio was 1-9. So they kicked the ball once for every 9 passes they made. And the Welsh stat was 1 to every 2.5. So for every 2.5 passes, we kicked the ball. And I think that just says everything about the game that we're playing at the minute. And, you know, take nothing away from the boys. It was a hard-fought win, but it was lucky. So let's not kind of get all excited about, you know, semi-final of the World Cup, here we come again. That was a lucky win that we got on Saturday. And when I say lucky, and I had this argument with several people on Saturday, and several you know, so-called experts were on telly saying that Owen Williams wasn't offside because there was no ruck formed. So, and I was having some quite strong arguments with people that law changed a few years ago when Italy played England, and Italy just messed England up because there was no ruck formed, where under the old rules you needed 2 people competing over the ball. And if you remember, Italy didn't compete over the ball, so they could stand anywhere they wanted to and interfere with play because there was no ruck formed. So the rules changed after that game, and the rule became that you don't need 2 players competing over the ball. You need a tackle and 1 player going for the ball. So that then forms the ruck, that then forms the offside line, and if you look at that tackle on Saturday, the Italian player is tackled 2 meters from the line. In all honesty, if he'd have passed the ball, he had the inside centre outside him. I would have trotted over quite comfortably from 5 meters, not a problem at all. But he didn't. He went for the line. But even then, the outside centre picks the ball up, so he is at the ruck. That forms a ruck, and Owen Williams comes from behind him and tackles him. So Owen Williams is offside, and that should be a penalty try in Owen Williams' yellow card. If you watch Nige, good old Nige has done a referee thing on it and said, yeah, that should have been a yellow card. He also said that the Italian yellow card with an elbow to the throat should have been a red card because the hand wasn't coming up, it was coming out. I would argue, can you even find Wyn Jones's neck? Because I've stood next to that guy and I can't see a neck on him. So to hit him in the neck, you've got to be pretty bloody accurate. It's chest and chin. So, that aside, that moment in the game, we got away with one there. We go down the pitch. We then get a penalty try ourselves from collapsing a maul from the line out. And Italy weren't even warned. Now, normally you'd get a warning on that unless it was really, really obvious. And, with a maul going over from, 7 or 8 meters out, whatever it was, that wasn't obvious. The player inside there, that was not an obvious pulling down of that ruck, that maul, sorry. So, again, I think we've got a little bit of luck on our side for that one. And, in the space of 5 minutes, that game was swung from one to the other. Add into that, the Rio Dyer's try came from a lucky bounce. It bounces into touch. It's an Italian line out and they relieve pressure. It didn't. It bounced back the other way. That's rugby. So, that's more luck than skill. And the same goes for Liam Williams' try. I mean, Liam Williams took his try really, really well. But that pass from Faletau, came from an Italian mistake to start with. So, Italian mistakes, they cost themselves that game, really. But Faletau's pass is aimed at Dyer. If Dyer catches that ball, the winger has come in on Dyer and is, in a good position to make that tackle on Dyer. It's a poor pass from Faletau. The ball bounces and it happens to bounce up into Liam Williams' hand. So again, it's a bit of luck that turned out okay for us, but let's not get crazy about, we're world beaters. We've had a little bit of luck and we've been due a little bit of luck. Let's be honest. There's been some stuff that has just gone the other way for a couple of seasons now, and injuries and what have you. So, if anything, we were lucky to win that game. But as I say, lineup was improved, scrum was improved. I was impressed with. There was a sequence in the first kind of 5 minutes where it was all about forward drive. It was short pass. And I think we took them about 40 odd meters up the pitch with hard, aggressive ball running, which that was the bit I was saying earlier. That's the bit that we're missing. We've lost Jake Ball and what have you. So it was encouraging that we can do it, but then we just didn't do it for the rest of the game. There were examples of where we could play a better game, but you look at the way that Italian backline cut us to shreds, and they did. It was absolutely, they just destroyed us in the backline. So, yeah, there were some positives, there were a lot of negatives, and it was more luck than anything for me in that game. So, yeah, we move on. We've avoided the wooden spoon, and sometimes you just need that bit of a lucky game to kickstart the season and things start improving. But if they're going to improve on this kick, chase and pressure game, for me, we've got talented players in Wales and we're not using them. We've got some really talented, exciting players. We've got quick players. We've got aggressive players, and we're kicking the ball away. And it's just not an exciting game to watch. It gets exciting in the last 5 minutes because we're never more than one score away or more than one score behind, and is that the kind of game that we want to? Would you rather watch a game where we kick the ball for 60% of the time and the last 5 minutes are exciting because we're hanging on, where we're 6 points in the lead, or would you rather watch the kind of game France played where they just absolutely destroyed England and played some really exciting attacking rugby? I know which game I preferred watching, but it's I guess that's a discussion for Warren Gatland to have with the players about, how much are we actually running that ball? Do we have an attack? And we've said this before. Where does that come from? It comes from the regions, and it comes from our players used to playing with ball in hand, running aggressively at people. So that's my review of the Italian game. Let's say win is a win. Could have been better. I think we got there through luck more than planning and skill. But we'll take the win and we'll move on. And we'll move on to France. So what I'm going to do at this point, so I'm going to pause here. I'm going to hang fire here. And then we're going to wait until the side is announced. And then we'll carry on from there. So I'll be back in just a tick. Okay, so the team is out to face France on Saturday, and you've got to say the French team that they put out 2 changes. One of them is a guy coming back from suspension. It looks settled and it looks comfortable. Welsh teams, we got Wyn Jones, Ken Owens, Tom Francis in the front row. Of all the places where you want the stability, front row is probably the one where you need it the most. It's not the most dynamic around the park. Ken has been playing out of his skin. You look at the work rate that he's put in, and he's having a cracking season. Is Wyn Jones still back up to international standards? Has Thomas Francis ever been, cracking pair of scrummagers? But are we going to rely on French handling errors to give us scrums where they can come into their own? So, question marks over that. The big question mark for me is Alun Wyn Jones at 5. I can see the point in bringing it back in. Bit of an old head, bit of a calming influence, whatever you want to do. But we're up against 2 French second rows that will run rings around him. Again, that's a tough call. I'm not sure how that's benefiting Wales going forward, bringing Alun Wyn Jones back. But there we go. I say it's that front 5. If we're going to play to win, that front 5 has just got to stop the ball going. End of. The only way we're going to be able to stop France is by putting a lot of pressure on rucks and mauls, by putting, they're not going to be able to get anything out of it. And you look at the way they've been playing up till now, and nobody's been able to stop them so far. So you have to question, how is that front 5 going to do it where nobody else has been able to? Back row, Wainwright. Yeah, I can see why Wainwright comes in. Tipuric at 7. I still can't understand why Tipuric is at 7 when we've got Rafael and Jack Morgan. Apparently Jack Morgan is injured, so that might explain some of it. He's just not done anything other than give penalties away this Six Nations. So, that's a curious one for me. And Wainwright, I see why he's in. Wales, we're still looking for a balanced back row. We're still looking for somebody at 6 that can tackle and carry the ball aggressively. And, let's hope Wainwright, he's got the athleticism, he's got the speed, he's got the skill. Let's hope he can get into the game and do some damage. Number 8, we've got Faletau, 100th cap on Saturday. So, good luck to him. But again, we're not, who are we developing in that position? The person I'd like to see at number 8 is Chris Sunza, just because of his size, his ability, his athleticism. He can play just about anywhere in the pack, and he's a fast, quick, aggressive player who is a ball carrier, and Faletau isn't an aggressive ball carrier. He's a high skill, running around the outside kind of a player. So opportunities are getting more and more limited for him because that front five needs to create the space for him. Halfbacks, Webb and Biggar. Anyone that's listened to me talk about Webb before will know my feelings. Biggar, he's an aggressive, confrontational 10, and again, I think that front 10 is set up to not allow the French backs to move the ball, and that's it. There'll be niggle, there'll be fights, there'll be scraps, there'll be off the ball stuff. There'll be all sorts of stuff going on. Big will be in the referee's ear, and it'll be really, really uncomfortable for him. But I think that's why he's there, and I think that's probably the right call, to be honest. But is it going to give us a creative, wide, expansive game full of high skill? And no, it's not. We're playing a kick pressure game, and you can see that with the two wingers, Dyer and Adams. Two fast, quick, aggressive players, but they're going to be chasing kicks all day. And same as Zamet. Zamet is at fullback, ready to receive French ball, because I can't actually see him getting the ball off a man in red. I think his best opportunity on the weekend for showing what he can do is running back a French kick. And French kicks are not they're few and far between. Centres then, Tompkins and North. I think this is an interesting selection. Tompkins hasn't had much of an opportunity and was probably trying a bit too hard to impress. He's not a typical Gatland player. And if anything, those two should be the other way around. North should be inside centre, given the strong, hard yards, with Tompkins providing a little bit of flair and creativity outside. So it'll be interesting to see how many times they do swap and George North comes on a crash ball to commit some of the forwards. So all in all, it's not a particularly inspirational side for me. There's nothing there that you look at and you go, yeah, wow, this is great. I think the only interesting bit for me is having Zamet at fullback, Tompkins at 12 and Wainwright at 6, and hoping that those boys get a decent run out. I'd love to see Rio Dyer have a bit of space and run at a couple of French guys in space. Nobody's really challenged that French back three in terms of running at them this season. So, that would be my call on that. Let's give these boys some space, but I just can't see it. Coming off the bench in, we've got Bradley Roberts, Gareth Thomas and Dylan Lewis in the front row, Dav Jenkins, Tommy Raffel, Thomas Williams, Owen Williams and Halfpenny. And again, there's nothing there that's particularly inspirational. I think for me, Raffel should be on the pitch with Tipperick coming on, if anything. And same for Dav Jenkins. He should be on in place of Alan Wynne-Jones. But, it is the front row that concerns me. That front row to come on, Roberts, Thomas and Lewis, is not particularly strong scrummaging front row. That is, by the looks of it, is looking for the game to open up. I think the only way that game opens up is if France start running it. I can't see Wales running that ball at all on Saturday. And then Halfpenny to come on, provided he doesn't injure himself between now and Saturday. So yeah, it's an interesting game, purely from if France click, then we're in for a really, really long day, and it could be embarrassing. And I think the challenge then is for Ken, Alan Wynne-Jones, Tipperick, Faletau, Biggar, to pull that side together and say, right, okay, this is how we're going to play this game now. From a leadership point of view, if it starts going wrong, particularly if it starts going wrong early, how do we regain composure and not let France run away with it? Realistically, I can't see anything else other than a French win and a decent French win. My prediction on the Rap podcast was for a 31-all draw, but that was purely to wind Jamie up. So yeah, I can see a hefty French win coming, but we live in hope. We live in hope. If that front five can disrupt the ruck, if they can disrupt lineouts, if the back three in the forwards, if the back row can kind of get into the French centres, then, you know, we might start to disrupt their play. They might go French on us. They might throw their handbags out. I just can't see it at the minute. But we live in hope. We live in hope. So, yeah, it's France by at least 30 points for me on Saturday. But like I say, we live in hope. And who knows? Who knows where we'll go? So, thank you for listening this week, guys. Bit of a strange one. I say best of luck to Martin. Hope you get better soon, mate. We'll see you next week. And yeah, don't forget, we'll put some stuff on social media probably after the game on the weekend about what we're doing next year and how you can be involved. So if you do want to get involved, get in early, send us a message, and yeah, we'll take it from there. So in the meantime, guys, don't forget the games on Friday night at Tenby and Haverfordwest, I think. No, Neyland, wasn't it? Neyland. Yeah, so don't forget the Cup and Plate semi-finals. And other than that, enjoy your rugby. I shall speak to you again next week. You have been listening to the Westerer is Besterer podcast from the Scarlet Supporters PEMS team. You can follow us on Twitter on Scarlet PEMS, find us on Facebook with Scarlet Supporters Pembrokeshire, or email us on scarletspems@gmail.com. And remember, West is best, but Westerer is Besterer. Cheers.
Sports Social Podcast Network.